right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of Land Stories Live. I am your host, Dave Deniston of Generation Family Properties, LLC, where our goal is to help hundreds of people like you own land, and we would love to tell your land story. Well, I have the honor today of having someone tell his land story. He's a friend, he's a colleague that I've enjoyed working with over the past 2 years. As a matter of fact, he has been an invaluable resource to help scope out land. He's been wandering through the mountains of Arizona and Colorado and New Mexico, helping me check out various properties. But not only me, he helps out lots of other land people that I know. Now, in this process, he's had to flee from the spring fire. He's had his car turned over. He's had to replace countless tires. He's been chased by mountain lions. This man knows no fear. Please help me give a warm welcome to Dustin Mcknight. Welcome, Dustin.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, so glad you're here, man. You do a lot of photography, a lot of different areas. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Well, so I've never been one to take on a normal job.
Yeah.
A little bit about my background. I'm a certified commercial drone pilot. I'm a certified commercial diver, actually.
Really?
And I am actually.
Wow.
Let's see. I used to clean water towers. I used to inspect water towers. And I've been doing photography since since I found my grandmother's camera the first time and just started snapping pictures. So I just sort of never really stopped.
That's awesome. So you were like 6 or 7. Tell us about that moment. When did you find your grandma's camera, if you can remember?
Oh, I can't remember the exact moment. I just remember running around with that thing, snapping pictures and pretty much, begging to go have the film processed at the time.
That's awesome. So when did you get into land then? Like, take us the transition from when you're like 6 or 7 to when you started taking land photos. What got you started in land?
I had just moved to Pueblo from Denver, and I'd come up here to Colorado from Oklahoma, and I was cleaning pools and, kind of a seasonal gig. And then it was that next year after, I guess it would have been October, November. God, it's been like 4 years now, 5 years. Huh. So I answered an ad on Craigslist, and I was like, hey, this is kind of something I've trained to do. I actually did go to college for photography. And I don't know, it was just something that always captured my interest. And landscape photography was something that I was always good at. So I went ahead and I started chasing down other clients after a little while. I answered a few of these ads here and there, and then one thing led to the next, and I sort of made a name for myself out here and kind of expanded my territory beyond southern Colorado, and that's really how I got here.
That's great. No, you've been so great about just being a resource and knowing about the area. I remember it was a bit over a year ago. You and I think, had done already quite a few photographs, and it was late June. And I've been waiting for you to take some photos of some mountain properties as well as properties in the valley of Costilla County. And you end up, I think, texting me or something saying, hey, there's a fire that started out here, and you were in the mountains.
I was on my way over, actually, to shoot your property at the time. I actually stopped on 160 and sent you some pictures of the fire. I did not know where your property was in relation to it, because, the spring fire was a massive fire at the time. And then it ended up just turning into a 100,000 acre monster. So, I don't actually remember if your property burned or not, but I know you were really close to the burn line. So,
yeah, it wasn't too far away, but luckily none of them got touched. So those turned out all right.
And that fire, that fire, continued on for weeks and weeks. I actually left the valley at that point. You couldn't see anything. One thing that I do try to emphasize is quality in my work. I would rather go or wait, and unfortunately that means keeping you guys waiting, and and bring you something that that's marketable, that actually looks good and is a fair representation of the property, than to go in and just take pictures on any cloudy day with and there are times that there's just no way around that. We especially during monsoon season, there are just weeks where there's not a perfectly blue sky to be had. You're working around cloud cover, you're working around Mother Nature. And that's the one thing that is a lot different than studio photography or real estate photography, where you're taking pictures of houses. Is here you are completely at the mercy of Mother Nature. This is her show.
Yeah, right.
You're just out here taking pictures.
Well, you can't control that stuff by any means. Any kind of thoughts on fires? Because after something like that happened, a lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, could this happen again?" Like,
well,
what
actually,
are your
we
what
have
are your
another
thoughts
fire
on
going on out here as we speak right now.
do you really? Oh wow.
Yeah, the Decker fire, but it's not like the spring fire. Apparently, they had a lightning strike, and they could have chosen to put it out, but it's controlled enough that they're using it as a controlled burn, more or less, to try and get rid of the deadfall. Now, my thoughts on fire, are pretty simple. If you own land, you need to take care of the deadfall, and that you end up with on the ground, or else you're setting the stage for something like the spring fire. Having been back up into Forbes Park this year a couple of times, I can tell you that it is not the lots that were well maintained and cleared out that really burned. It's the ones that were I think I've actually taken a few pictures of lots like that you had bought, where you had just lots and lots of deadfall, dead trees all throughout the lot. And once that catches, there's just no putting that out. In some of these areas, you had decades worth of just dead trees just laying there, waiting to catch on fire. So it's not just a question of being careful with open flame. It's really a question of properly maintaining your land.
For sure. No, I agree. What are your thoughts on just like getting to some of these places? Like, what are you using to know that you're at the right place? Like, how does that work?
Well, a lot of it is being reliant upon the client to provide GPS coordinates. I will generally ask for 4 GPS coordinates. Yeah. I'm okay with using screenshots as well, but really what I tell my clients is the more information you can give me, the more accurate I know that I'm going to be.
So are you using like a GPS device, a cell phone? Like, how do you know?
I am using Google Maps for the most part. That's
really
actually accurate enough to get me out there and see the shape of the property. So
cool. And I know as you're going out to some of these places, I teased a little bit, you've been chased by mountain lions. So tell us about that.
I have not been chased by mountain lions.
I thought you did.
No, I ran into a mountain lion. There's a difference.
Into one.
We crossed paths. Fortunately, he didn't seem hungry. But the one night I was up in Sangre de Cristo Ranches, right up by Forbes Park. And that Sangre de Cristo Ranches is a huge subdivision.
Oh, so gigantic.
And this was after the spring fire. This would have been this would have been in the fall, the winter. No, this would have been late summer. This was after the spring fire, though. And it had been raining, and I got my Isuzu Trooper stuck in the mud. I was trying to go down the side of a road, and it was just so slick and slippery that I slid off into a runoff that the rain had cut off on the side of the road. And just the whole nose of the vehicle is just kind of in the mud. The vehicle's sitting at an angle like this. So, at this point, obviously, I'm not getting out on my own. I don't even have a shovel on me. So I set off to go and find somebody. I got about a half a mile from the truck, and then just right in front of me, like a shadow. I mean, like completely silent, no warning whatsoever.
Mm.
About 10 feet in front of me, this mountain lion just bounds, like just. I mean, like,
Wow.
yeah, just right there.
Wow.
Now, I mean, if you want to have the sense of really being at the mercy of another creature, I mean, go get up like 10 feet away from a mountain lion. I
Mm.
mean, just the fact that I heard nothing and saw nothing until he was right in front of me, and when he was gone, he was gone.
Did you like have a gun on you or like anything?
No,
You had like nothing.
I should walk around with a gun, but honestly, because of other circumstances that I've run into with ranchers and property owners, I've found that being armed is almost more of a liability than it is an asset.
Mm.
So, I mean, the wildlife generally I don't have a problem with. And honestly, a lot of times, like if a mountain lion wanted me, having a gun wouldn't fix that.
All right, man. I would be carrying. You get stuck like that.
Man, I believe me, it's something I've gone back and forth on quite a bit, but
Mm.
I have I've seen how a firearm can escalate, a tense situation. And
Yeah.
the thing that I worry about mostly out there is not, like I said, it's not wildlife, it's humans.
Mm.
It's people, because you get all kinds of people coming out here into the mountains, and I mean, a lot of these people just want to be left alone.
Sure.
They
Sure.
get their whole, oh, this is my side of the mountain, and they don't like the fact that there's a road that goes to their property, or and they get kind of edgy about it. So
That's the
best not to
nice way
give
to
them any
say
excuses.
it. Well, I know the way you and I got started was because I was buying quite a few properties in Costilla County, and I still do. And there are so many land investors that go to that area. I'm curious, what do you make of that county?
Castilla
And
County is a good starting place for land investors. It seems like everyone that really gets going um, ends up with holdings out here or starts up out here. It's the land actually has value. It can actually be developed. There is water underneath it.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
not the most expensive or the prime or land that's prime, but it's also not worthless.
Yeah.
So I find Castilla County to be a really good balance as an investment. I know a lot of people that live over in Castilla County, and a lot of them are quite happy. It's really where you buy. There are certain properties that you just have to know to stay away from in
Mhm,
certain areas.
mhm,
And that's just because like with every area, there are areas that are more desirable and less desirable. I really like the San Luis Valley Ranches area. I
mhm,
really like the
mhm,
Sangre de Cristo Ranches area.
mhm,
Forbes Park is a wonderful place to build a home, and that's a wonderful community. Those people are very protective of each other. They are generally very decent people up there. And ever since the spring fire, that they've really kind of come together as a community. Um, Rio
I,
Grande Ranches is the back of nowhere, but if you want a place that is is literally just away from everybody, there you go. That's
mhm.
pretty much the southern side of the state. I don't think you can go any further south and still be in Colorado.
No.
Um, Beyond that, I mean, there are lots of places here in the valley to invest, but Castilla County is set up for it. It's everything is well platted. The roads are well marked. I'm not going to say that access is never an issue over there, but access is an issue far less of the time in Castilla County than it is in a lot of other places. As hard as I might be on the county government from time to time, they
Hmm.
do their job, and they do maintain the roads, and they do keep up at the county, and they do keep it from becoming a giant junk pile for the most part.
No, I totally agree with you. I think they kind of balance that line on like the regulations. Like for example, like Park County allows you to build a tiny home, Costilla doesn't.
No,
But
they want 900 square feet minimum.
yep. Yep. And so they tend to, I think, have some rules in place which maybe drive some people away. Like you have, I can't even tell you the number of people ask me about camping or have living on an RV out on all kinds of properties, and they don't allow you to do that there, which I think is a pro and a con.
It is, but I've seen the consequences of the days when Castilla County did not have as strict of enforcement
mm,
of their codes. I think we've all seen the pictures floating around the internet of, at least here in the industry, of, properties out there that are piled up with trash or, junk cars, and I mean, let's be honest, there's not enough margin in a lot of these properties to be able to really afford to go in there and clean one of these properties up. So the
sure, sure.
county ends up stuck with this property, and then the cost reverts to the county to clean it up. And it's Castilla County is, population wise, Castilla County is a very small county. So this is not a small burden for them. But they do have a commitment to keeping the property values, protecting their property values, we'll say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's property values there tend to stay more constant versus other areas. That's been something that's been nice. It's not fluctuating like it can a lot of other areas. And I agree with you. I mean, Forbes Park is beautiful. Obviously, spring fire affected a big chunk of it, but it's still a beautiful area, and it's just gonna grow back.
It is, and a lot of people have not taken into consideration with Forbes Park is that once these areas are cleared, once these lots are cleared, you're talking about, yeah, they won't be wooded lots so much, but, I mean, they won't be completely bare of trees either. But you're opening up a lot of that area to these gorgeous, mountain views on every side that, ordinarily you wouldn't be able to really see because, Forbes Park is very, or has been very, heavily wooded up until this point.
Well, actually, you may not be aware that I just got an email the other day, literally in the last week, that there's some reforestation program where people can actually buy trees or get trees for free, seedlings, to replant. So I think,
And I wouldn't even worry about I mean, the aspens will come back out there. It's not so bad that, it's stripped clear, but it's going to take time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to take some time for all that to come back, but this is, still, I'm very comfortable about recommending Forbes Park as an investment to my clients. I'm very comfortable, and recommending that, Forbes Park is a place to build. I would honestly, if I were going to build anywhere in Castilla County, it would probably be Forbes Park.
Now, to switch areas, you also made it out to Tiburon, New Mexico, for me lately. I'm curious, what do you think of Tiburon in that area?
So, Tiburon is a very interesting area. I have only been out there the one time for you, and it's definitely an area that I am looking forward to getting to know a little bit better. My first impressions of it, though, are that as far as being buildable, it's a very buildable area. You do seem to have quite a few, nicer homes, kind of out in that area. The whole subdivision is built around an airstrip,
Mm-hmm.
which is a nice touch. And it's, I don't know, it's just a very small community. I think they have one restaurant there, one little pizza place. I
Yep.
actually went out and I actually tried that while I was there, and the people were very friendly. I like this area. Now it's very indirect, and it takes a while to get there. The
It
nearest city
does.
is Alamogordo.
And there's no cell phone reception, I think, there, isn't there?
Not for me. Now, I don't have Verizon, and Verizon is usually everywhere, but even still, like, I don't think that at the time I was on T-Mobile, and if T-Mobile's not there, then chances are you're basically roaming on Verizon at that point.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Now, outside of those two communities, I mean, you shoot all over the place.
I do.
So, where do you like to go? Like, where if you were me, where would you be buying land?
Oh, you see, I would keep a nice portfolio of different areas, because I don't think you have any one type of land that's good for every customer.
Right.
I mean, and obviously, this because, you invest all over the country. Now, it really depends on what you want. If you want a tiny house, if you want something that is off grid and, you don't want to deal with a lot of the regulations, that you deal with in places like Castilla County, I would recommend Arizona. I would recommend like Western New Mexico around Rama.
Mm.
Those are pretty decent areas for that. But I mean, every area has their challenges. If you wanted, I don't know, if you want desert, like, if you want high desert, I would recommend West Texas. I would recommend around El Paso, like out to the east of El Paso, Culberson County, the Hudspeth County, kind of in that area there. But, keep in mind too, you're kind of getting what you pay for. That's dirt cheap land. That's bottom of the rung, but it's beautiful out there. It's really a question of, what are you buying it for? What do you want this land for? There are areas that I service that are kind of on the outskirts of Albuquerque. So if you're looking for a place that's not too far from the city, maybe one of these properties out on the edge of Santa Fe or Albuquerque. It like I said, it's really about what you want. Now, as far as one of my favorite areas, I want to talk for a minute about Park County, because, I think that's an area that we were talking about earlier. And,
Yeah,
and honestly, Park County is a really good buy. Those lots go really fast because those lots are gorgeous.
mm-hmm.
It's not scrubby, it's grassland. That makes a huge difference when you're building. Like if you go to places like, Saguache County, and you're out there trying to figure out how to get rid of Chico bushes before you can do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
But up there, you don't have that problem. It's scenic. It's close to Colorado Springs. It's close to Denver. It's close to Breckenridge. You've got Hartsel's not really that big of a town, but they do have a restaurant and they do have a bar. So
Sounds like Timbron.
I mean, no, I don't even think Tiburon had a bar, as far as I know. But you do have Fair Play to the north.
Yep.
And you do have more services there. It's close enough to all the places that you might want to go here in Colorado to make it valuable, in my opinion.
That's good. And there's a few counties that I've never bought land in that I'm considering: Fremont, Teller, even down Los Animas, where there's trees.
Okay.
Any feedback on those areas?
Start with Los Animas, actually. The area around Trinidad is kind of unique to the west, in that it has been heavily built up by the gas industry. So there are a lot of pad sites out there that have electricity running to them already. So you have just, oh man, I'm trying to think of a couple of the names of the subdivisions down there. Give me a minute, it'll come to me. But what you have down there is an area that is more or less maintained for the benefit of and by Pioneer Natural Gas. So, and they're really good neighbors to have down there, because you go down there and those roads, even in the dead of winter, those roads are clear, and they've obviously got enough clout to get electricity back in there to power their compressors. Now they're decommissioning a lot of those pads and sites as they do, so you have a lot of properties that sit along those access roads going back to those cul-de-sacs. And all this is already done. They've gravelled the roads. Everything. There's nothing really terribly inaccessible back there. So I like Los Animas County. Now, when you get east of I-25, you start getting into it's different country.
Yes.
There are more problems.
Mm-hmm.
For certain. Like you've got areas out there that there's just no legal access without going through the state and getting a permit, and it just gets to be such a chore to be able to access and those properties that selling them becomes just very frustrating in my experience. I've guided people out to those areas, and even now, there are not a lot of no-go places that I have, but half of the list of places that I won't go are in eastern Los Angeles County.
Got it. Yeah, I think the western end, west, that's where the trees are. I mean, to me, that looks like the beautiful.
That's where
side.
it's desirable. And honestly, Trinidad is a nice town. About 8,000, 9,000 people, and they have art, they have culture, they have they have a nice downtown there. That's obviously where the nearest Walmart is.
Yep. Yep.
They have 28 dispensaries in that town.
28.
28 marijuana dispensaries, yeah.
Jeez.
So they have, at least for the moment, a guaranteed source of revenue for the county.
Wow.
And yeah.
Just no vaping. That's going up the
let's see. Now, you had mentioned Teller and Fremont as well. Okay, so Teller County is up kind of close to Victor and what's that other town up there? Cripple Creek.
Yep.
That's kind of out by the Florissant National Monument area. Okay, this is a gorgeous area. These properties are a different class of property. These are nice properties. These are properties that people are buying up and building like retirement homes and summer homes on. You're close enough to the casinos at Victor and Cripple Creek that, that I guess is a draw. You've got the gold mines up there that, do actually produce, some decent paying jobs up there. So it's one of those areas that you actually do have some demand legitimately. And I think that's why the area is as nice as it is. Now, you do have to be kind of careful because you are so far up in the mountains. Some of those properties are the side of a hill.
I have heard that. That'd be hard to build on if it's just straight steep and no flat area.
Yeah, I shot one that was like this. You would have had to have gone in there and carved out a shelf.
Ugh.
You just spent more on earthwork than you did on building the house.
Yeah. Ugh.
So you got to be careful, but then again, you've got some great areas back in there too. Just with everything, do your due diligence. Look at, get on Google Maps and take a look at the terrain and see what it looks like from a satellite before you even consider buying it. Fremont County is a little wilder. It's kind of close to Pueblo and Canyon City. So, and it sits in what's called the wet mountains. So it does rain quite a bit out there. And it's quite green out there. In the summertime, it snows out there. Or I'm sorry, not the summertime, the wintertime, it snows quite heavily out there. It sits just to the north of Silver Cliff and West Cliff. So that little valley is actually that little valley is actually quite pretty. Like you'd really have to go and see it, but you've got a lot of trailheads that access the Santa Cruz de Cristo National Forest. Kind of over on that side, that's all BLM and federal land up on the west side of that valley, and it's just a gorgeous place to be.
I've heard it can be like Teller in parts of it, where you have those really steep lots. Have you found that to be true?
Yes, in Teller, that is where you tend to run into the really steep lots.
In Fremont as well.
Yes and no. Sometimes you can run into steeper lots, but it's not like Teller where you're a little further into the mountains. In Fremont, you're closer to the Front Range, so your terrain isn't quite as yes, you can run into lots that are very steep out there as well, but Teller is really where you have to look out for that.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts, Dustin, just on different areas that we haven't covered? Because I'm not in every state. You have any other areas just in general that you really like or enjoy that you've shot at?
Well, let's see. Honestly, offhand, I can't think of anything that stands out. I'm always, trying to get into new areas, explore new areas, so that I, can pick up, some knowledge of everything down here, more or less. But it's if I had to, okay, this is kind of a shot in the dark. I do have one area that I have only shot in one time. It's in Rio Grande County, which is the western side of the San Luis Valley. So, as near as I can tell, those properties are a little more expensive. But again, this is one of those really desirable areas that you've got a river that's moving through. You've got several lakes and reservoirs. It's up in the San Juan Mountains. And you do have quite a few like half-acre, looks like half-acre, quarter-acre, somewhere in that area, sized lots that people go up there and tend to build a lot of fairly nice, vacation homes and whatnot up there. So, it's not an area I see a lot of investors working in. It's an area that, and I understand a lot of that probably has to do with cost, but it is an area that maybe you might want to go back and take a look at again. It might be worth a mailing.
Actually, I don't think I ever told you, but how I first got interested in land in that area was because I knew it a little bit. I have a client that lived in South Fork, and up on the way heading towards Creed. And so his place was sandwiched between the mountains. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful spot right
Gorgeous
by
territory.
the Rio Grande River. And I fell in love with the area. And so eventually I do want to get some land out there. But like you said, it's a lot more expensive. Plus, it's farther from Denver, too. So not only is it more expensive, but you're further from Denver. So it's kind of like...
The other area that I'm starting to see a little bit more interest in is like Pagosa Springs.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. There is a new community that's being developed up close to Wolf Creek Pass. They're talking a rather sizable community, several thousand people. So
on the Pagosa side?
I want to say it would be,
or on the South Fork side.
It's up close to the pass. I cannot remember which side it's on. I need to go back and look at a map, to be sure. But it's a project that has been in the works for a couple of years. They finally got the road access permission back there from the federal government. So they should be able to start developing here in the next few years, is what they're hoping. I think they're still working with, doing it like the environmental impact studies and whatnot. But, I've heard a community up to like 10,000 people.
Wow, that's big as for out there.
For this part of the state, that's huge. That's bigger than Alamosa. That would make it the largest. But, you hear a lot of things, I don't know how much, take that figure with a grain of salt, but there is they are developing that area. So, looking forward, that might be something to take into consideration, because that's obviously going to have an effect on the value of the land around that area.
Nice. Great advice. Now, I know as we started going, you said you had kind of a public service announcement that you wanted to make to people. So what is your public service announcement? Go ahead.
Well, today is the second day of fall. And as most of you know, even it tends to start snowing up in the mountains about any time now. And that is going to start making some of these areas inaccessible. So moving forward, you might want to prioritize some of these higher elevation properties or properties in areas that might be troublesome to get to, for to get those into your inventory, get pictures taken of those. Just because once winter hits, I can tell you, and as you well know, some of these areas, you're not going to get back into for 4 or 5 months at a time.
Mm-hmm. This is true. Some of those tucked away. And I know you've been so valuable to me in helping with pictures and giving some thoughts on areas. And one of the questions that I hear a lot, Dustin, is, gosh, I want someone to help take me to a property. I have no idea where it's at. And people are concerned with getting lost. And obviously, the area well. So if folks wanted to reach out to you to guide them to a property, how would that work? And how could they get in touch with you?
Well, you can contact me at dustin.db.mcknight@gmail.com, or you can call me at 719-415-7007.
Awesome. And obviously you're a photographer, so you take pictures for folks too. So perhaps you could even go remote for people if they wanted, just another opinion, just to make sure a property is right property, but they got it from me or someone else. And is it the same contact information if people
Same contact information.
You want to give that one more time?
That's Dustin, DUSTIN .db.mcknight, MCKNIGHT @gmail.com.
Perfect.
And that's 719-415-7007.
And Dustin, any closing thoughts?
This is an interesting industry to be in, land investment. I'm actually, really honored to actually be able to occupy the position in it that I do. And I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of my clients, for helping me get to this point. It's taken several years, but I couldn't have done any of this without you guys. And moving forward, I hope we can all continue to make some good money and make some good investments and continue to create some interesting stories.
That's it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dustin, for joining me. And my friends, that wraps up the episode for today. Make sure to tune in every Monday live at 11:30 a.m. Central and Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Central. And of course, if you have a question about land, send it to me, contact@genfamproperties.com, or submit it through Facebook. Thanks again so much for tuning into Land Stories with me, Dave Deniston. Make sure to check out all of our properties at www.genfamproperties.com. That's GENFAM properties.com. If you have a question, you want to speak with me directly about a property we have available, or you just want to see what we got out there, give me a call, 775-234-2058. Thank you so much, my friends. Have a good one. Bye-bye.